I am Darlington, as you already know, and today in this section of Novice to Global Scholar, I am going to discuss scholarship application strategies. I have 45 minutes, during which you can ask a question if you want, or you can wait till the end of the section and you can ask your questions. So the topics we are going to discuss today, not today, but just in my own section, is types of scholarship opportunities available, how to source for these scholarship opportunities, application timelines and their requirements, and how to write statements of purpose. These are the things I expect that you at least learn in this 45 minutes. Let's just go straight into it. What are the scholarship opportunities available? Well, there are so many scholarship opportunities available. There are so many of them. Maybe if I'm not exaggerating, they are in the thousands. Okay. So each of these scholarship opportunities differ. And therefore, if you want to apply for scholarships, you need to know which ones you are applying to, and you should learn how to apply for them, because as the scholarships differ, so do their requirements, so do their timelines, and so do everything about them. Okay, even their funding also differs. So you need to know these opportunities available, and then you need to know which ones you're applying to and be sure that you meet the requirements for the ones that you're applying to and understand how they work. So I have listed here just a few of them, the ones I am conversant with, okay? There are so many that I do not, in fact, I don't know if anybody can know all the scholarships available. Maybe some people do, but it's almost impossible, okay? So the ones I can talk about very well are the ones I have applied to, either get rejected or got awarded. And the first of them is the Chevening Scholarship. I think this is the most popular, everybody knows about Chevening. It's sponsored by the UK government, and it's a master's scholarship, and they have some requirements that you might want to check out before you apply for Chevening, so that you are sure that you qualify. For instance, I know that they require you to have 2 years work experience, and they also have a requirement that when you are done with your studies, your 1-year master's, you return to Nigeria, to your country, and stay at least 1 year. And they have their goals, mission, and vision statements. These are things you learn about any scholarship before you apply to them. Okay, also in the UK, you have the Commonwealth Shared Master Scholarship. It's similar to Chevening because it's in the UK, it's sponsored by the Commonwealth Commission and the school that you're going to attend. So that's why it's called the Shared Masters. Commonwealth Commission pay half of the sum of the fees. I don't know if it's half the proportion. And the school also brings part of the proportion. So you need to understand, for instance, you cannot apply to Chevening the same way you apply to Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. It's not just possible. Okay, so you need to understand the differences between them, and so you can be able to know how to apply for each of them. You have this from the EU, that is the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master's Degree, which is sponsored by the European Union government, and they have a different mission and vision. I know for Erasmus Mundus, you are required to study in different countries. In fact, their mission is to bring talents to Europe. So, the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master's Scholarship has the EU government has their mission and their vision. So like I was saying, they intend to bring talents to Europe. They want you to mix up with them, you understand, learn their cultures, visit different places, and they want you to actually stay behind. That's the mission. So we'll get to that when we talk about how to write statement of purpose. So it's actually different from these other ones I've mentioned. In Germany, there is the DAD Masters. I think that is also a very popular scholarship, and there is also the DAD PhD, if I'm not mistaken. And you also need to learn how to apply to these. In Poland, for instance, you have the Banach Scholarship. We not normally know it as the NAWA Scholarship. You have the Hungarian Stipendium in Hungary. In Asia, there are so many masters and PhDs. At least I know that the PhD, like Hong Kong PhD, is one of the most popular in Asia. You have like in Saudi Arabia, you have the King Abdullah Scholarship, you have King Abdulaziz and the rest of them. And some of these scholarships actually pay very well. I think Asia has some of the scholarships that pay the highest in the world. Okay, so it's things that you might want to also explore. Of course, you're also thinking about settling down, because I mean, if you're going to study in a country, you are already seeing yourself as possibly I can get a job there after I'm done and I can stay there. So These are things that might influence your choice of which continent or which country to apply to. The US and Canada, I group them together because their PhD scholarships are almost the same. So in US and Canada, it's best you target PhD scholarships instead of masters because it's very hard to get masters funding. Unless you want to pay for yourself, it's better you target a PhD because PhD is a job, okay? You are researching, it's a job. Or you are teaching or get research assistant or teaching assistant. So you are being paid for the job you are doing while you also research. So it's easier to get a PhD. Okay. So if you want to go to PhD to US or Canada, better make, I mean, you don't need a master's to apply for their PhD. So the PhD is like a master's and PhD because the first year is a master. Then after which you now start your research. I mean, it might differ in different programs and schools, but this is generally the case. Okay, globally, all over the world, you have some university-funded positions. These are provided by the university itself. Remember, we've talked about external funding. For instance, we talk about Chevening. The Chevening government will pay for your school fees and everything. It's not by the university. We talk about Commonwealth, which is shared between the university and the Commonwealth Commission. Erasmundus is funded by Erasmus. But these ones are positions in the school. So some schools have some positions for brilliant students. You understand? For instance, there is this African Excellence Award. It's actually by the school itself. So you can find these all over the world in different schools. And you also have some advertised projects, some PIs, some professors advertise that they have a position, they have a research position in their lab, an MSc position in their lab. This is advertised on Twitter or wherever, and you can apply for them. You can even do cold email. This does not qualify as code email because for code email is that there is no advertised position. You just find the professor, you've read his work and all those, and you go to his email and talk to him about your interest to join his research, talk about your own research experience and stuff without him soliciting for such email. That's why we call it code email, okay? So it's actually a little bit different from advertised positions, but I mean, they're all about emailing the professor directly, not just going to the school. Having talked about that, now the question is, how do I even assess these opportunities? How do I find them? I've hinted on them already. I think that the first thing I want to talk about is Google. Okay, Google is your friend. Everybody knows this phrase. Google is your friend. We also say Google to show yourself approved. In scholarship pursuit, you cannot do without Google. Google is like a lifesaver, okay? It's like a lifeline for you. So you always need to go to Google and ask questions and search for things. For instance, you want to go get a PhD in the United States and you don't have any clue, how do I even start? Just go to Google and type PhD opportunities in United States. It's as simple as that. And you get so much information. You see so many schools, you see advertised PhDs, you see so many things, and you start reading. By reading, you get some ideas. You see some schools that have positions, free positions that are recruiting and stuff. Or you narrow your search down. For instance, you are interested in Auburn University. I'm using it because it's where I am. So Auburn University, and you want to know about their PhD in chemistry, you go to Google and type Auburn University PhD program. And you see some search results come out. In these search results, they might tell you about application requirements, the application window, and all those things. You already know what you're dealing with. You can even see a box or a button saying, click here to apply. It's as simple as that. Always go to Google. Google is your friend. Always go to Google to search things that you do not understand. Google is like a lifeline to you. Apart from Google, I've already talked about PIs, advertising. Their PI simply means principal investigator. It's what we use to denote the person you are going to research with, the professor that you are going to research with is called your PI, your principal investigator. So some PIs post on their blog, blog on Twitter that I have social position, I need a student to fill it and stuff. So you can find this information on Twitter. Apart from that, on Twitter, you see so many blogs also, people who talk about scholarships, who give out free information on scholarship, post on Twitter regularly. I know so many of them. So Twitter is not just for the violence, okay? I like Twitter for the violence, but apart from that, you can also get academic advice and all stuff and information from Twitter. Apart from that, I also talk about the scholarship groups. For instance, the student safe space, okay? These groups, when you join them, you're going to gain a lot from them. One of the things you can gain is that application windows will be advertised there. Erasmus Scholarship is starting, they post it on the group. Evening is starting, they post it on the group. I mean, that's basically the best way I learned about scholarships is by joining scholarship groups. I actually had to spend some time, like more than 2 years in scholarship groups before I even made my first application. Okay. When I joined the scholarship, I had no interest of applying for scholarships, but I just stayed there and I learned what they were doing. And with time, I feel like, man, some people I joined with have already gotten scholarships, so maybe I can give this a try. Okay. So belong to scholarship groups. You can learn a lot from it. Apart from knowing when application windows are open, you can form communities in scholarship groups. You can get friends who are co-seekers for scholarships. You can even get mentors and people that will review your applications. These are benefits you get from scholarship groups. Belong to as many as you can. And just a word of advice, I think it's even more important that you belong to a new scholarship group than an old one. Don't just target on, well, this is a big scholarship group, all the people here have gotten scholarships. Because I know so many groups I belong to, I joined when they were just starting, and there you get information every 24/7. But now it's like a dead group. I mean, we don't talk about anything scholarship there. Why? Because almost everybody in the group has gotten scholarships. So the only thing we talk about there is about life, about the car to buy, about this, about sports, I mean, that's the information you get there. Because I mean, almost nobody is seeking for scholarship again. But when you belong to new groups where people that are actively seeking for scholarship belong, there you will get information, you will get co-seekers, you will get friends that you people can collaborate and do some stuff. Okay, so I encourage you firmly to belong to scholarship groups, as many as you can belong to. Then apart from this, you also have webinars like the one you are also attending now. This one is from, I would say it's from a blog or vlog, because I know that the Student Self Space is a blog, and they also vlogs. If you have not joined this group on Facebook, maybe I've not joined them. I don't know, but I know for YouTube, there are very good contents on YouTube, and I have subscribed. You can also subscribe to it. So they have blogs, they have blogs. You can join this space and so many others. So, I mean, I'm not just advertising. I'm just saying it because I know it's something that can help you. Okay. Apart from this, you can also have graduate school fairs. It's held sometime around August, September. I mean, so many schools, especially schools in the United States, especially I know about biological science programs or science programs. They always host graduate school fair where they talk about what are the requirements of this application and all this and all that. You can ask any question. There are people on hand to attend to you. And if you attend these sections, you can get application fee waivers. That's the good thing about it. Because everybody that attends, they normally give out a code that if you're applying, use this code as a waiver to, you know, to apply without paying the application fee. Some application fees are as high as 120 euros, dollars rather, which of course is high for someone in Nigeria. Understand that? I mean, even if you are outside Nigeria, it's still high for you. So if you can get $120, I mean, we are talking about almost 120,000 naira. But by just attending 1 hour section or 2 hour section, it's a big deal. Okay, and you learn a lot. You learn what they want to ask questions about your application, and you get first-hand information from people in the school, not just students, but the staff in the school themselves. So I would encourage you to also attend graduate school fairs as much as you can. So these are ways that you can learn about or source the scholarship opportunities available. Like I said, you can always interrupt me and ask a question if you want me to emphasize on something particularly, because this session is supposed to be interactive. Okay, I'm looking at my time. I still have 30 minutes to go. So it's not bad. I was trying to push out this interactive part because I have just for 12 minutes, but I think I've covered something in 15 minutes. So you can always interrupt me. I mean, it's not rude. Please remove the idea that it is rude to interrupt me and ask a question, because I wouldn't know. I'm looking at my screen. Just unmute yourself and ask a question, and I will attend to it and we'll move on. Okay, anytime that you So let's continue. The next question there is, what are the application timelines and requirements? So this is another question that so many people would ask. Like I said earlier, scholarship applications are different, and also their requirements and their timelines are also different. So there is no general answer to this question. It all depends on the scholarship you're applying to. But there are some rules, like there are some general rules, okay? Because most scholarship applications open between September to January, or let's say September to December. Okay, most PhDs in the United States, Canada, most MSc programs, Chevening, Commonwealth, Erasmus, open between this period, September to January. Some can start as early as August, and some can extend to February and thereabout. And this is for the fall intake, the intake that starts around August, September. Okay. But there are also the spring intake, especially for schools in the USA and Canada. They can recruit a PhD student to start the spring semester. Okay, so it's not as if you don't make it in the fall that everything is gone. Okay, but the chunk of them will be in the fall intake. But you can also see the ones that will take spring intake. That means that you might be applying around March, April, May. You can still apply for scholarships, the ones that have this intake. And also some applications are open all year round. For instance,
sorry to disrupt you. Can you please mute Olamide's Subero?
Okay, yeah, I can. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. So, like I said, like I was saying, rather, in the UK, the PhD programs are almost open all year round.
Okay. As many times as you want to go back, want to continue and
sorry for that. So if you go to findthephd.com, you can try it, findthephd.com. There you can see PhD opportunities available in the UK. To find the phd.com, you can register. Is it .org or .com? You can try both. You can register and they will send you all. I mean, they will send you notifications of available PhDs, and you pick your field and you can see all the available PhDs in the UK. Not all, the ones that are advertised on that website, okay? You can see them and you can apply to them. It's all year round. It doesn't matter when. But the thing is that you might need to have a master's degree to apply for a PhD in the UK. And even in Europe, generally, unlike in the USA or Canada, where you don't need an MSc to apply for a PhD. So you can try that. So there are some general requirements for applying to scholarships. There are some specific requirements for each program, just like I said for this timeline that is specific to some programs. But generally, these are the times that apply. So there are also general requirements and there are specific requirements for applying for PhD, for scholarship opportunities. And one of the most important requirements, general requirements, is a valid international passport. I don't think you can apply to a scholarship without a valid international passport. So if you don't have one and you're in scholarship space, all you are doing is to learn about scholarship. You are not applying because you can't apply without an international passport. I might be wrong, actually, but I think that's generally what it is. Because every application you want to make, or most applications you want to make, ask for your international passport. You also need to have your academic transcript, your student transcript. You need to have it. Apply to your school, your student affairs, and you can get your student copy of your transcript with which you can make your applications. And when your application is successful, they can now ask for your official transcript from your school directly. You might need to get an English proficiency examination. It's a might because not all schools require it, especially as Nigerians, we are taught in English, okay? So some schools might waive this for you, but they might need you to get a document from your school stating that you are taught in English. But if not, if they require English proficiency examination, you might need to write one. It's now kind of expensive. I think it has gone up to 100 and something K now. You might need to write the graduate record examination, that's the GRE. Please, you need to understand the differences between all these because GRE is not an English proficiency examination. I see some people making that mistake. If you're not applying to the US and Canada, you don't need to write a GRE, okay? That's strictly speaking anyway, because I know that some schools in Europe now are also asking for GRE for PhD, and some schools in Asia, for instance, Hong Kong PhD might ask you for GRE, but basically it's exam for USA and Canada. That's the general rule, okay? Any other school asking for it outside this region is just an exception. So if your interest is to get a master's in Europe, for instance, you don't need a GRE for anything. So don't waste your money on it. Instead, take your money to go write English proficiency examination. So you also need for sure your academic CV, okay? And someone in this webinar is going to talk about the academic CV, and you are going to learn more about that. You also need to write a statement of purpose or letter of motivation. Letter of motivation. This is supposed to be LOM, not LOR. Your personal statement, your cover letter, all of them kind of different from each other, but basically the same thing. You might need to write them, and we are going to discuss in details how to write them. Apart from that, you might also need to take some massive open online courses. I'm going to emphasize on this later on in a later topic. You might need to get some internship experiences, some conferences, local and international publications. These ones are things, when we talk about from MOOCs, internships, conferences, publications, these are things that can make your application to be outstanding. I mean, they are not mandatory to have, but they are things that should make your application outstanding. Whereas when we talk about international passport, academic CV, transcript, these ones are mandatory. You must get them before you start application. For English proficiency exam and GRE, they might be mandatory, they might not be, depends on which program you are applying to. So you need to understand all of these. Then there are some requirements that you have to give to yourself. It's personal requirements. For instance, you need the time. For sure, you need the time to apply to scholarships. You need determination and tenacity and doggedness and resilience, because you are going to get, or you most likely are going to get rejections, and you need these qualities to keep you pushing, even in your, how do we say it? Even in your bad days. I think in your bad days, yeah, you need to keep pushing, because you don't give up because you get a rejection. I mean, many of us got tons of rejections before we got even the first years, okay? Then you need time again. I said time before. You need determination once again. You need seriousness. You need willingness to read. You need the ability to follow instructions. You need time. I've mentioned time 3 times. It was not a mistake, because you need so much of the time. Scholarship application is a full-time job. So if you're not willing to give it time, maybe you are not actually ready for it, because I know some persons that resigned their jobs to apply for scholarship. I know some persons that did so many other things. In fact, if I tell you my own experience, it's actually crazy. Maybe it sounds unbelievable, so let me not go to it. But the point is, you need time to apply for scholarships. You need time to apply for scholarship, and you need determination. So in anything that you give your scholarship application, give it time, because you need to spend time preparing all the things that you want to do. And you need to apply to as many as possible. Okay, I'm not saying you should apply to everything you see. It's best to have the quality than the quantity, okay? So as many as you can apply to, but that you can give enough time and, give a very good content is very good, because, I mean, the ones that you even think you gave the best might not even come out positive. So you need to apply to many. That's why you need time. So once again, scholarship application is a full-time job. Having said that, I would like to go over to a specific topic now, how to write a good statement of purpose. But before I go to that topic, I still have 21 minutes left. Maybe I can use 1 minute to talk about, if you have a question on what we've discussed so far, we can talk about it briefly. Then we go over to this topic, how to write a good statement of purpose. Let me hear your thoughts.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Please throw more light on GRE. I don't understand the meaning. I don't understand what you talk about and what it is.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. It's unfortunate that because of I'm sharing the screen, I could not see the name of the person asking the question, but I will just go ahead and answer. So GRE means graduate record examination. It's an exam that was designed for people that want to study in the USA and Canada. Okay, it's kind of an examination that will standardize your knowledge, okay? Because people study in different parts of the world. And what we see as a first class in Nigeria might actually be a 2-1 in the United States, or even a 2-2 in the United States. I don't know. Okay. So they want to look beyond what your department, what your school is saying about you, and actually test your abilities by themselves. And they're not testing your ability in your specific course of study, but they want to see your general ability to understand information easily. So everybody from whatever field is going to write 2 subjects, English, we call it the verbal, and we have the quantitative, okay? More like mathematics, okay? It's a crazy exam. Let me just say it that way. It's a crazy exam because it's actually very rigorous. But if you study it very well, you can pass it. Okay, and people do pass GRE and even pass. I mean, there is not even anything known as the pass mark. It depends on whatever the school set as their, or the department, the program set as their cutoff. So you are going to write the essays, then you are going to write the verbal, and then the quantitative. So it does not mean that it's a test of English because you are writing verbal, which is English. Actually, it's your ability to really understand information presented verbally or in a written form. And then you also have the quantitative, your ability to do calculations. And I think it generally favors more the engineering students. I mean, the quantitative part, because they are good with calculations. For those of us in biological, that started in biological sciences, it's not that easy for us. But like I said, they don't care which background they are coming from. The same exams is written by everybody because they believe that these are general things that will help any student that wants to do a PhD should be able to pass this exam. So you only write this exam if you are hoping to study in the US or Canada, or if you are trying to study in any other place that specifically requires GRE. If not, you don't need to write it. I don't know if you have more questions on this. We can address it briefly before we continue.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I understand what you discussed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, yeah, so let's continue. Now, I'm going over to the topic of statement of purpose. Statement of purpose was one of the things that scared the hell out of me before I started my scholarship application, because I was like, how on earth do I start writing this thing? I've read some of them, and I don't know how somebody comes up with telling these stories about himself and this and that. It's not really. So we are going to answer these questions. How do I identify my area of interest? This was one of the highest problems for me, and I guess it is for so many of you as well. What information should I include in my statement of purpose? How can I organize it? And how do I even start? Now, I want to add a disclaimer. Whatever I'm going to discuss in this section is what I think based on my experience and my knowledge. It's not a rule. It must not be right, okay? There are things that has worked for me, that have rather worked for me, and might work for you as well. But I mean, it's not a rule because someone else might have a different ideology which works for him. Okay, so another thing I want to also state is that I don't want to make a distinction between statement of purpose, letter of motivation, personal statements. Some people have clearly defined the differences between all of them. For me, I address them as the same thing, and I'm going to tell you why. The most important thing is for you to address the prompt, and we are going to get to that very, very soon. So these are things we are going to talk about. First of all, how do I identify my area of interest? Research interest or study interest. For most of us that have just BSc and you want to go into research or you want to do a master's, I don't think you should worry so much about having a specific research interest. Okay, even though I know that you did some kind of research, you might have done some kind of research in your undergraduate, it does not necessarily mean that that is the area that you want to go into. Okay, so what I think you should focus more on is find out what interests you and find out what is funded. Okay, I studied biochemistry and I was applying for programs because I did some courses on food chemistry. So I was applying for some programs, for master's degree in food science. I applied for some master's degree in biochemistry, biotechnology, biological sciences, and biomedical sciences, and the rest of them. So I think that the most important thing is wherever you see funding and you know that this topic interests you, because you did so many courses in your undergraduate, you can find a way to get some more knowledge on that field and apply for it. Who knows, you might, it's interesting to you. You understand? So don't say that I want to, because I worked on diabetes in my undergraduate, I'm only going to apply for things that has to do with diabetes. In effect, what I'm saying strictly is that as an undergraduate, you don't have an area of interest. You pick the available areas and which has funding. It makes it much easier for you. The ones that you know you can study, because you have done so many courses and you know that you can go into any of them, the ones that you like. Okay. If you have already done a master's degree, possibly you have streamlined your interest because you picked an area of master's degree. I did an undergraduate in biochemistry, and in my master's degree, I picked pharmacological biochemistry. Once I was doing a master's in pharmacological biochemistry, I have already taken this as my area of interest, and I was already working or starting up a research in that area before something happened anyway. So now I already have a specific area. Had it been I finished that master's degree, I already know that I want to go into drug development, for instance. So in the PhD, I will be applying for things that are around that research field, drug development. But if I keep my hands open to whatever opportunity I can see. So if you already have a master's degree, then you possibly have an area of interest. Even at that, you might still need to be flexible, because where you think you have interest, you might not find funding there. If you have the funding, if you have the money to sponsor your scholarship, your studies, then be very, very specific. Go for what you want, because you know you are going to fund yourself. If not, try to be a little bit flexible. Apply to as many things as possible. Whichever one comes your way, you can go with it, as much as it's something that you know you can handle. So if you are somebody that is bad in mathematics, or maybe somebody that has dyscalculia, and you're applying for mathematics because I said go for what is funded, man, you might be doing yourself some wrong, because you might get to the program and the next thing you are calling, you are having suicidal thoughts. No, go for something you know you have interest in and that you can do. The next question is, what information should I include in my SOP? Well, there are things you need to consider. The first thing is, what scholarship are you applying to and what degree? For instance, if you're applying for a PhD, your statement of purpose does not have the same content with somebody applying for a master's. A PhD is research. Master's is to gain information. Even though it might have a research component, the main interest is to learn. It's just like a BS, you're going to learn. The research is just a little part of it, okay? It's just to give you research experience. PhD is research. The highest you can do is just 1 year coursework, which is equivalent to a master's in the USA. And then you go to your research. So if you're applying for a PhD, you need to talk about your research interest. What is that field of research? Now, let me not complicate things. I already said before that you don't need to have a specific research interest. What I meant is that if you're going to apply for to do a PhD, somebody that is working on food science, of course, that becomes your research interest for that particular application. So you need to learn about it. You need to take MOOCs, online courses on it. You understand? You need to gain knowledge about that research field. So in your PhD application, you need to talk about that field. You need to talk about what is happening in the field. What is that gap that I want to fill in my research? You need to talk about them. I need to talk about what is your career goal? What do I want to do after these studies? That's for a PhD. If you're applying for a master's, then you don't need to go into that research area. You need to just talk about what are the courses in this system, in this program that interest me, that I want to learn. What are those knowledge I want to gain, and how can it help me in my professional life after my 1 year or 2 years MSc? What do I want to do, and how can this knowledge help me to go into that field? That is the difference. So you need to know what is the degree you're applying to, and you address it accordingly. You also need to know who would fund this research or this study, and what are their visions and missions. You don't ever want to bend the mission and vision of the program to fit your own. You want to mend your own to fit their own. Now, let me illustrate this again. I already said that Commonwealth is meant for developing countries. They want to take people from developing countries who cannot afford to study in Europe and take them to UK rather, and train them and send them back to their country to make some changes in their country. If you're writing a statement of purpose for Commonwealth scholarship, you need to talk about what are the things you have been able to achieve, developmental changes you have done in your country, even with low resources. And then you need to show that when you are given this opportunity to study in UK, and when you come back, these are the changes I'm going to make because I've gotten more resources in addition to the things I've already done. You need to also show that you cannot really afford to study here. So you need to talk about how, not like you are begging for the opportunity, but you need to demonstrate that you don't have the financial capacity to take the study by yourself. But you don't need to do that if you're applying for Erasmus Mundus, because he has a different mission and vision. They don't care if you're the richest man on earth. They want a particular skill. And even if you are, who do I use as example of the richest man? Okay, let me use for Africa, Dangote. Even if you are the son of Dangote, and you tell them I'm the son of Dangote, but I have the qualifications, they will still take you. They don't care whether you are rich or poor. And if you go to Erasmus and you are trying to talk about how you manage to strain yourself in the university, how you overcome challenges, financial, you're wasting your time, of course, because nobody cares. Their mission is to bring talents to Europe. It's not about helping people that cannot afford their studies. You need to understand whatever scholarship you're applying to, what are their mission and their vision. If you're applying for a PhD, you need to understand what is this person working on. Don't bend what the supervisor is working on to meet your own target. The supervisor is working on developing vaccines. Let me use this example. He's developing medicines, but the medicine he's developing is for HIV. Then you now go and talk about that you are interested in drug development and you are targeting malaria. Well, he's drug development, but he's interested in HIV. He cannot leave it and start researching on malaria. So you have already kicked yourself out. You need to know what he's working on and address your own interest to meet what he's working on. That's very, very important. To sum everything up, there is always a prompt. So whenever you open a application, you see statement of purpose. They say, write a statement of purpose, 500 words or less. Talk about your interest in this program, your career plan, your this, your that. That is the prompt. Follow the prompt carefully. Forget any other thing you have in mind. So you cannot use one statement of purpose to apply to more than one program. It's not possible. You can take the same ideas and bring it to another application, but you need to look at the prompt for that particular program. Almost every program has a prompt, except cover letters usually do not have prompts. But for statement of purpose, motivation letter, these almost always they have a prompt. Read it carefully. Always copy that prompt, copy it, paste it in front on top of the document you are going to write, like your Microsoft Word, and then start typing. Be looking at the prompt and be looking at this and ask yourself, am I addressing this prompt? Am I going off point? You need to address everything in the prompt, and you don't need to waste time on addressing things that are not in the prompt, because they know, they give the prompt because they know what exactly they want to know about you. So stick to the prompt. It's very, very important. Of course, you must not follow the prompt serially as it appears. You can talk about everything there by creating your own story, and I'm going to emphasize on that later. So here says, if there is no prompt, because some few applications has no prompt. These are general things you need to talk about in your motivation letter or statement of purpose or whichever one you are. You might want to start with, or maybe not starting, but you might not want to talk about your motivation for the program or for the research if it's a PhD. You talk about your preparations for the program or the research. You might want to talk about, under these preparations, it might include your academic background. Now you say, I want to do a PhD in chemistry. You might also want to show that I have already done a BSc in chemistry or biochemistry or food science or whatever field you know is related to chemistry. You talk about your academic background, how you excelled in your academic background, how you were the best student or whatever good things you can talk about your academic background to show that you are determined in your academic journey. Okay, you can talk about your research and publications that are in line with that particular research or that particular program you are going into. You can talk about your internship experiences, your work experiences, professional experiences, all of them. You can talk about the conferences you have attended, the online courses you have attended. All these things are your preparations for this program. These are things you have done to prepare for this program. Okay. Then you might also want to talk about your knowledge and skills that you intend to acquire from that program, whether it's a PhD or MSc. Because you know most times you might already have gone to the website of the program, you have seen the course curriculum, you know what you are going to learn, or you know what you anticipate to learn. Then you can talk about them, that this module, this one, this thing will give me social knowledge and I need it in my career, and which is the next thing that talks about your career goals. So you need to link how this knowledge and skills will help you in your career goals. And if you're applying to scholarships that are huge on returning or giving back, for instance, Commonwealth Scholarship, Chevening Scholarship, you need to show how those your career goals will enable you to give back to the society, not just your local society, even the international society. Okay, I mean, even if the scholarship does not emphasize on that, if you are doing a PhD and you are researching on a topic, you can also talk about how this topic is going to solve societal problems. That's actually the main import of research in the first place. So these are general things you might want to include if there are no prompts. But if there are prompts, I would want to. So the person requesting to record the meeting is already recorded. So I think you can get a recording later on. You can talk to the admin or you can chat in the chat box. They will respond to you. So these are things you can talk about generally, and there are things you need to avoid in your statement of purpose. Don't attempt to bend the PI's research to fit yours. I think I've already discussed this extensively. Avoid appealing to emotions. Although I say something about some scholarships wants to take people that do not have the capacity to train themselves, even at that, you want to show that you are qualified, but that you cannot afford to train yourself. But that doesn't mean you start appealing to emotions. That doesn't mean you start begging and saying, please, if you don't give me this scholarship, I have 2 children I am taking care of, my son is hospitalized. And all. I mean, those are, you can never use it to sway people's, I mean, I know that some people can always, the emotions can be swayed, but not professionals. You can't sway the emotion because they understand that you have your problems. Every other person has their problems. And we have what we are looking for, and that is what already that distracts them. That would make them not to give much attention to the application because you're already going off point and trying to appeal to the emotions. Okay, stop, do not bring in your religious beliefs. For instance, you start your statement of purpose by saying, the Lord be with you, and all you do. You end it with, I hope that God will help me to be successful in this application. I mean, the person that is going to review your application might not even share your religious beliefs. Bear it in mind. And it might actually be a turn off for the person. Personally, myself, I'm a Christian, but if you're writing an application and you're ending it with, God will help me to, or may God, maybe you want to buy my favor by showing that you share the same religious beliefs. And maybe it's actually an indication that you are a religious fanatic, which I wouldn't want to work with a religious fanatic. I wouldn't want you to come into my life, or my lab, for instance, and start proclaiming your religion instead of the research that you come to do. Okay, so I think that it's good that we keep things in their place. So I don't think that bringing up your religious beliefs and sentiments is necessary in academic work. Focus on what you are doing. God will help you. You can pray to God, but you don't necessarily need to do it in front of the review panel. Okay. Unnecessary details is also not important. I'm trying to wrap up because I have 2 minutes to. So how do you organize it? First, be as concise as possible. In fact, the difference between a good writer and a poor writer is how concise you can be. That's the truth. When I was learning Spanish, the teacher said that the difference between a good user of a language and the person that does not use the language is just how many few words you can use to say the same thing. A good user of a language can use very few words to say exactly the same thing. A poor user of a language needs too many words to say the same thing. And that's the same thing in writing. So you have 10 ideas, I have 10 ideas. I put all my ideas in one paragraph, 200 words. You wrote your ideas in 1,000 words. I'm a better writer than you. That's basically it. So be concise as possible as you can be. Now, let me tell you about this. When you want to start writing your essay, whichever, I say essay for all of them, same of purpose or whichever one they are, you can have like 10 ideas. I've already itemized some of them here, things you need to talk about. I've already itemized them here. For each of them, you might make them one paragraph, okay? You might even write one full page for each of them, for each of these ideas. Fine and good. Then you now start reviewing it and making it smaller. For each of them, each paragraph is an idea. A paragraph that started with 500 words might end up with 50 words or even 20 words. In fact, some ideas I started writing as a paragraph might end up as just one sentence. And that is how you make it concise. When you start writing, just put down everything you can remember, everything you know about. For each topic, you have a different sheet for it. Write down everything you can. Then start bringing it together. Start removing unnecessary words, unnecessary ideas, just return, make sure you don't lose the main idea. It might end up as just one sentence or 2 sentences because most applications you have just 500 words, 300 words. My PhD application, just 300 words, and they give you their prompt. They have everything they want you to write, and they want you to write everything in 300 words. The ability to write it in 300 words is what makes you a good writer. Okay. So you need to also use paragraphs for every let me go back here. So for every idea, you need to put it in another paragraph. For instance, you might want to put your motivation in a paragraph. You might want to put your preparations in a paragraph. Your knowledge and skills you want to apply in a paragraph. Your career goals in a paragraph. You end it with a summary paragraph. You might want to do that. You might want to put your academic background and your research experience in another paragraph. And then you want to start your internship and professional experience and conferences in another paragraph. And then you link them together to show that they are still the same idea. And that's what I talk about here when I say use topic sentences, links, and ideas. I hope I can have some 2 minutes to talk about what the topic sentences are, although I know my time is up. We've already taken like 3 minutes from my time for questions, so let me use it here to explain this, okay? So when you are writing, you need to link ideas together. For instance, you talk about your motivation, or you talk about your experiences, you talk about your academic background, and you now want to talk about your work experience. You can follow it up by saying, normally how you would have said it is like, apart from my academic experience, I also have work experience. Like the start of that sentence, I also have work experience. Okay, but I mean, to save all those space, you can just add moreover or furthermore. That furthermore shows, apart from the ones I have discussed earlier, I also have other things I want to talk about. It's still the same idea. So you need to link your paragraphs together. And I want to talk about topic sentence. Because this is actually, if you write a statement for me and you want me to read it, I can read it in 15 seconds. I mean, even if it's 2 pages, I can read it in 15 seconds. And you need to learn this skill because you're going to write IELTS or TOEFL, English test. You need to learn them. Because each topic, each sentence should have a topic sentence. You don't, in your TOEFL, they give you 2 minutes to read 3 pages of, they know that you don't need to read it. You need to know how to skim the work. And this is what the reviewers will do to your work. If they cannot skim your work and get the general idea of what you have written in 15 seconds, that means you're not a good writer. Okay, so for each topic, for instance, this paragraph is going to talk about your academic experience. You start the topic by saying that I have some academic experience that qualifies me for this program. Then under it, you now start listing them. You now say, first of all, I have a BSc in agriculture. Secondly, I have an MSc in this. Thirdly, I have a PhD in this. All of them are going to explain that first line, which is your topic sentence. So if I want to read your work, all I need is to read the first sentences of each paragraph, and I know exactly what the work is all about. If I can't find your topic sentences in them, it means you did not structure your work very well. So you need to use topic sentence to give the whole idea of the paragraph, and then write the details of the paragraph after it. You need to also use links. I've already talked about it. You need to make your objective smart. Smart means it should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be, some people say A. There is so many confusion about what A should be. People say A should be achievable, so R should be realistic, and T should be time bound. Maybe you can contact me later. You will see I can explain these things to you, or maybe in the question section I can explain it more. Then if you're having an experience or a narrative to give, you need to use STAR approach. You need to talk about the situation, the task, the action, and the results. How do I even start this writing? How do I start in the first place? You start, for me, I think you start by reading. Read statement of purpose, read other people's work, look at the prompt, look at what they wrote, and you see how they develop these ideas. Then you start writing your own. Write your own, don't copy. Don't plagiarize. Even if you don't use the exact word, don't reproduce people's ideas. Don't open somebody's work while you are looking at it and you are writing your own. You are only going to end up transferring everything has written to your own in different words. Close their works. Think about your own situation. Make your write-up novel. It should be your story. Don't tell any other person's story. After you have written, you review. Now, review is like the things I've talked about. You keep making it smaller and smaller and smaller. You use review tools like apps like Grammarly, Killbot, and all of them to check for grammar errors and so. And you send it out to friends to review for you. And even people that you see as your mentors or reviewers or whoever they are, they review. You go back again, read, write, review. You keep doing this cycle until you think that you're good to go. And then you submit. And I wish you success as you submit. If you have specific questions, you can, now I said specific inquiry, specific, not tell me about scholarship process. No, if you have specific inquiries to ask, you can email me, I will respond to you. Or you can chat me up on my LinkedIn. Please, specific questions. If you say hello, I might not, I am busy. I might not respond to you, but if you go straight to the point, I will definitely respond to you. Or you can, I believe that you should have joined, if you are here, you should have joined the student test space, and you can invite your friends to join as well. You can get answers to your questions from them. They are doing a marvelous job, and I appreciate what they are doing.